Well, praise the Lord, saints. This is Elder Adrian Heyman, and continuing on my series on the book of Revelation, coming to Revelation chapter 6, verse number 6. And we are dealing with, at this particular point, the opening of the seven seals. As people may think this is something that out of fantasy, it's a exaggeration, or it's embellishment, apocalyptic language, imagery, and so on. Just wanted to let you know what's taking place in this chapter and in Revelation is a warning of what's about to happen. And we have to realize that in many of the prophecies, people disregarded them at their own peril. The language may be full of quite vivid imagery, but the fact is this: there may not be actually seals that are opened, as this is a maybe literary device, but what happens on the earth is real. So things that, as you go through Revelation, you go through the beginning of these plagues, two things you must answer. Number one, regardless of what takes place with the plagues, are the plagues themselves real? Number one. And number two, if they are indeed real, is it something that God causes directly, or does God ensures it by putting various parties in place? And in either case, it says nothing against the power or the wisdom of God. It is, as they say, what it is. Right now, or at least today, we'll be on verse number 6 of chapter 6. We went through 2 of the 7 seals, understanding that the opening of the seals actually leads to something. Yes, the seals themselves are momentous, but it's much more important as to what the seals lead to, the opening of them. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again on this particular point. The opening of the 7 seals reveals the rest of Revelation, that we're able to see what's happening. This is why John was crying at the books, that this book couldn't be opened, because he couldn't understand what's going to take place unless and until that those seals were opened. The fact that Christ is the only one authorized to do it lets you know how special he is. But what the first 2 seals revealed is, for a period of time, you will hear of someone who is taking over countries and not having to lift a finger in warfare to do so. The threat is enough. I want you to think about this too. Currently, we have a battle, war you may want to call it. The combatants are the U.S. and Israel versus the state of Iran. I say state because every nation is its own state. not like states in the United States, but their own sovereign government. But as this war has come on, we find that many people don't want to fight for the simple reason that they are afraid of what's going to happen to the oil, as oil runs the world's economy. So you don't have to necessarily use a war or a battle to chill nations into not to resist. Just take away what is needed, and many nations will surrender. What the U.S. is going to do, I have no idea right now. But whatever it is, it will be in line with what future prophecy holds. But after those first few times, and I always bring up the case of Nazi Germany, because they tried at least twice, went to other nations, annexed them to Germany by threat, not necessarily by actual fighting. We can only do it so much. When Germany crossed into Poland, World War II began. And something similar to this, when this person who we have identified as the Antichrist, this is not Jesus. Remember, when Jesus comes in victory, he'll bring peace. What happens after this is all war breaks out. Not just war between nations, war within nations, war between gangs, war between families, war. There's complete violence, killing, indiscriminate. In other words, societal norms will be broken. And whatever was at first law and order, that will have been taken away. Then we got the third seal, which brings in famine. And famine doesn't need the overall lack of food. All you need is the inability of bringing food into where it's needed. And at that point, you have famine. Verse 6 brings it to a point in a very interesting way. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, this is a declaration, what it all means. It says, a measure of wheat for a penny. You have to make sure we understand this. The penny that's mentioned here is not a penny that we have nowadays. Today, a penny is almost worthless. In fact, there is growing talk of abolishing the continued manufacturing of pennies. But it says a measure of wheat for a penny. What does that word penny mean? Word penny here is translated from the Greek denarius and a denarii, or Roman denarius. Because a denarii was the amount of money that a typical worker would take home in a day. And it says a measure of wheat. That's an amount that one person could eat. One. In the idea of being able to make that amount of money all day, and you only have enough for one person. A measure of wheat. Now that's quality grain, wheat. Then it says 3 measures of barley for a penny. What's the difference? You may say, well, barley means you're stretching it even further, which is good. But the quality of barley to wheat is simply this. Wheat is much more substantive in its nutritional value than barley. Barley is more coarse. It is it's less nutritious, less palatable. It can be eaten, but it's not the first choice. So you can either choose to eat only enough that can fill a grown man for a day, for that particular day. Or you can stretch it, have 3 measures of barley that doesn't quite satisfy 3 people. But that's only about as much as you can do. You cannot afford anything else but barley. So you're stretching your money, knowing it's very tight. And if you have a family, someone's starving, or the whole family is malnourished. A measure of wheat for a full day's wage. 3 measures of barley for a full day's wage. It also leads to possible inflation. We're going through that right now. Think about what's happening with the cutoff of oil. What do you think is happening? No oil. The price of oil has shot up. It was around maybe 60 or less dollars per barrel. The last I've heard of it is above 110, almost twice as much as it was before. People who are barely making it to work are finding it much harder to scrounge up that amount of money just for transportation purposes. Not to mention that there are many things that are made out of petroleum products that now will cost more. What you have is not only war, which by itself is going to have a negative effect on the world's economy, but now you have runaway inflation that we haven't even seen yet. Twice as much to before is one thing. What if it's 3 times as much? 4 times, 5 times? War causes that. Because now goods are scarce. And what would have normally have been barely manageable in terms of being able to purchase it, now you can't even purchase it. So now places in the world that have known hard times but not famine are now hit hard by that famine, based upon the idea that war limits limits production, limits distribution, and limits sales. But there is one group of people that will not suffer. One group of people that everything will be as it has been. Maybe a little, what do you call it? A little, maybe not as easy as it would have been, but still rather easy to get food. And that is those who are rich. And they will have the displays of their wealth regardless of how wretched the lives of many will become. So it said, see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. These are things that these are discretionary items. You don't have the money, you don't buy it. But if you have the money, you will definitely purchase it. Wine, pleasure, parties. What do you think is happening right now? As the world's economies are struggling, those that are rich, who cares about the doubling of oil prices? Who cares about the increase of costs and therefore the inability to be able to buy enough for your family? Because my family is taken care of. My family, me, myself, we're fine. We can go to Tahiti. We can go to various locales of the earth. We can dine in fine places. We can still buy exquisite furniture. We can still enjoy this. And we don't care if everybody sees it. While those who are starving, practically in the face of those who will have the means to buy whatever they want. We thought that the difference between those who make least and those who make most are at an all-time high. It will be much more so during this seal. So what does the opening of this particular seal mean? It means that for the majority of people on earth, the standard of living will decrease dramatically. Those that are middle class will fall into the lower class, struggling to get things to eat. Those that are in the lower class will be faced with starvation. Not lack of food, but starvation. Those that are already starving will most likely die. So from first seal to the third seal, the world's condition will deteriorate quickly and dramatically. But with all of this going on, there will still be enough for the rich to splurge, to party, and to throw it in the face of those who are facing outright starvation. You might say, well, these aren't really plagues. They're probably not. That's what we've been calling them. But these are the prophesied results of what will take place towards the beginning portion of the tribulation period. And saints, at least for a while, there will be no good way of resolving these problems. And it will get worse. So join me next time as we continue through the seals of Revelation. May God bless you. May He keep you. Take care. Love you all. Saints of God.